This is Rehatch Designs by Tina Williams. I hope everybody's doing well today. My video today is 3 romantic French country projects. Project number 1. This is a tray that I thrifted for under $2, and I am going to be painting it with Fusion's raw silk. I absolutely love this white. It's a creamy, beautiful white. It's probably my favorite white. And I'm going to be going over this tray with 2 coats of this Fusion. I did the back first, and then I'm going to do the front. And I did not prime this. I just cleaned it with alcohol. And I find that the Fusion paint sticks extremely well. It has a primer and a top coat built in. So I love using it on these projects. I find it's very cost effective and time efficient when you're trying to do a lot of projects. So anyway, I'm going to go over this completely. It only takes 2 coats for complete coverage, and let it dry, and it doesn't take very long to dry. And the next thing I'm going to do is I have some decoupage paper that I got a really long time ago. It is a Dixie Belle paper. You may still be able to get it. I think I got it on Etsy. It's called Flowers for a Cause. It's a beautiful, beautiful kind of a blush pink color of roses, and I basically just outlined it with the back of my paintbrush to give me a line to cut around. And I'm going to cut all the way around this. Now you could leave it cut the way that I cut it out, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some water with a paintbrush, and I'm going to go all the way around the edges, and I'm going to try and make it a little bit more of an organic tear that goes around it. Rice paper has fibers in it, so it really makes this wonderful organic look when you do that. It's a little hard to tear, so putting water on it helps. After I have it torn and ready to go, I put a starter strip of decoupage medium down, and I'm using Pinkatour's decoupage medium, and I also mist my rice paper. I don't always do it. I don't really find on rice paper I need to do it, but if it's been folded and there's a line, I will do that. It helps get the line out. And then I'll go ahead and put my decoupage medium down on the rest of it. I usually find that rice paper doesn't wrinkle very much. It does a pretty good job of laying down without wrinkling. It's not as thin as a tissue paper or a napkin. And then after I get it all down, I will take a ball of saran wrap, or in this case I have all of these little baggies here that I use for putting my paintbrushes in while I'm using them, and I usually just take it and go over the entire thing with it. And the reason you use that instead of your hands is your hands are coarse, your fingers are, and you don't want to overwork rice paper or any actually tissue paper or napkins, because you can tear it, and on rice paper you can dissolve it because it's very fibrous. It's very strong, but if you put too much water on it and you rub with it, it's basically dissolves it, and you don't want to do that. So then what I do is I take my decoupage medium and I go over it again one time over the top, and I will go ahead and use the baggie to smooth it out again, make sure there's no bubbles or wrinkles or anything like that. And I will let that dry completely. And after it's completely dry, then I go over it as I'm doing now. Because it's a tray, I'm going to go over it with Pinkatour's Extreme Guard, and this is the semi-gloss. And the reason I do that is because it is a tray. If it was just something that was hanging up, I would have just used the decoupage medium because that does seal it by itself. But I do that extra step whenever I'm using a tray, and I make sure that I go over all of the edges and the back of the tray with the extreme gloss, with the extreme guard to protect it. Even though Fusion does have a sealer in it, because it's a tray, I want to make sure it has extra protection. And what I always do is I will sit there and dry it in between, even with the just decoupage medium, and I will dry it with my heat gun that gets all the wrinkles out. It works similar to the ironing method. And now what I'm doing is I am taking Fusion's rose gold wax, and this stuff is really cool. It's a very wonderful color of pink, and it has a little bit of a shimmer to it. And I'm going over this entire tray with it, mainly concentrating on the edges where it has the little raised portion detail. And then I'll go over the middle a little bit with it. And because I already have a top coat on there, it's going to be very loose and fluid, and I can take off as much as I want to. You always want to have usually a wax or a top coat on. In the case of Fusion, because it does have a top coat built in, you could just go directly over your painted surface, because this way you can really control how much wax you leave on. So anyway, I'm going to go over the whole thing and take off a good portion of it. In fact, I actually go back in again and add some more to the detailed areas because I took off a little bit too much. I make sure I go over the back so it matches with the same rose gold. I remember when I first got this, I was like, well, I don't know that I really would use it, and I actually love it. I just love how it looks. It gives that something that's not pink, a little bit of a pink look to it without it being just, overly in your face pink. It's a very pretty look to putting on a white or an off-white tray or item. So this is the back of the tray, and I'm going over it. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking the Venetian Gold Wax by Paint Couture. This has become my new favorite gold. It is very similar to Rum and Buff. I think it's a really pretty gold. It's not super bright, but it's not dark. So I like how it looks on any of these French country looking pieces. So I just go over all of the edges and the raised portions all the way around, and I take off any extra with clear wax. You can always remove extra wax with clear wax. And here's my finished project. I love it. I think it has a beautiful French country look, and there's just so many ways you can style a tray. So project number 2, this one is a heart, and I thought I would throw that in since we're close to Valentine's. This is just a wood heart that I got on Amazon. You can get them anywhere, And we're going to be using the mold from IOD that is called Juliet. And it's absolutely beautiful. It can be used for so many different things, but I am going to be casting this with a quick casting resin. I'm using Fabricast. You do have to kind of know what you're doing with this a little bit because it does cure very quickly. It's 50% part A, 50% part B. You mix it up, and that's pretty much it. And then you do need to pour it right away and have your extra mold sitting next to you because this stuff, it cures very, very fast. So you have to be prepared for that. So anyway, I go ahead and just pour this in my mold, and I have another mold out, and this is the frames mold. I think I have both of these in stock. Not sure, but I'm pretty sure I do. So I'm just going to be pouring. I'm only going to be using one of these frames in this project, but I usually always end up with a little extra resin, so I always have all these extra pieces, and you'll see later I have some that I use. So pretty easy to just pop them out. You could definitely do this entire project with clay. I find the Juliet mold though is very kind of fragile, and so it is a little bit harder to use with clay, but definitely doable. So I just popped it out pretty easy, and I'm going to be gluing this on, and I don't show you that, but I glued it on with some super glue that I have a spray that it makes it instant, and I'm going to put this other piece of the frames mold on the other side. It's kind of a little of a weird abstract design to this, but I thought it'd be a little different. I am going to be painting this whole thing now with this gorgeous, beautiful pink fusion color, and it is called Rosewater. I absolutely love this pink. If you're a pink person, this is the perfect pink, I think. It's not too bubblegummy, and it's not too gray. It's a gorgeous pink color. So I'm going to go over the whole thing and make sure I get in all the little detail. There's a lot of detail in this. And if you didn't like this design, you could definitely just cover the whole thing with that Juliet. I think that would be really, really pretty. But I kind of wanted to do something a little different. So I'm going to go over the whole thing, including the portion of the frames mold. And now what I'm going to be doing is I am taking some of that rosewater paint, and I am going to be mixing it with salt wash. Salt wash is an additive that gives you texture. I love using it. I use it a lot. I'm using it on this piece because I'm wanting this to kind of look like it's I don't know, maybe just a cement piece or a pottery piece or something that is just all in one, like it's been carved or something. I like to do this use salt wash whenever I use any type of a mold, especially if it's resin, because there's always a little bit of a gap, and this fills in any of the gap. And I'm also going to make sure that I cover this entire thing, the front and the back, so that it all blends together. And now I'm going to take my glue, and I am putting a piece of this is from the Lock and Key mold, and I've already poured this. Like I said, I usually always have extra pieces, and this is a resin piece I already poured from the Lock and Key mold by IOD, and I did heat it up. You see my heat gun out there, so it will bend a little bit. You can always heat your resin up later after it's cured, and it will be a little bit flexible. And I did that on that lock piece, and on the key I didn't have to because it's going to be on something flat, but that frame portion is a little bit curved, so I went ahead and wanted that to be curved a little bit. And then I go ahead and put this piece down and get the extra glue up. Of course I put my spray on to make sure that it dries instantly. And of course you can use your Titebond glue on this. I usually do, except when I'm filming. I'm just kind of in a hurry usually. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I mixed up a little bit more of that salt wash with the Rosewater Paint by Fusion, and I'm going to make sure that I get around that lock and key mold portion that I put on, because there was a little bit of gap there. And I'll go over it and make sure that I go inside all of those pieces on the Juliet mold to make sure that I have some texture everywhere. Now what I'm doing is I'm going over the whole piece with clear wax, and I'm doing that because I'm going to be putting a white wax down after, and I want it to be very fluid and be able to wipe off as much as I want to. Usually if you put a clear wax down before your other wax, it really works well for that. And here I'm using Fusion's liming wax. It's a white wax. I love their waxes because they're very, very kind of fluffy and easy to work with. And so what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and wipe off a big portion of that. I'm basically leaving the white in all of the detailed area. And you can really see how it picks up on all that detail. And also having that salt wash all over the heart, what it does is it gives the wax something to hold on to. So you get some of it, you get that wax all over. And now what I'm doing is I am using Fusion's pearl wax. It's a white wax, but it has like a pearly shimmer to it. It's really pretty. It doesn't show really well on camera, but it is absolutely gorgeous, and you can really see it once it's dry. I don't think it shows up that well until it's dry, but I'm using that over the white, and I'm going over the whole thing with it. And of course I'm going to be wiping off the tops. I'm leaving a lot in there, but I'm just wanting the tops to not have the as much of the wax on it. And like I said, it's really, really pretty in person. Between the white wax and the pearl, I think they work really well together. The pearl is a little bit translucent, so that's why I put the white wax down first. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking that same Paint Couture Venetian Gold, and I'm going over the tops of all these roses just with my finger. I really want to bring out all of that detail. And this will really make that detail pop. If you liked it the way it was before, you could always omit that portion of it. I'm just going around the entire heart with the gold, just with my finger. And of course, because that salt wash is on there, it's going to kind of have a raggedy look to it. And then I'm just taking my little drill and I'm just putting 2 holes in the very top of this so I can put a little hanger on there. Pretty easy to do. You could always like hot glue something on the back or whatever, but I want to have something to hang it from. And I have this beautiful chiffon pink. It matches the pink perfectly. Pink chiffon ribbon, and I made a little hanger with it. And then I decided I wanted a bow just on one side. So I'm taking a little hot glue, and I have a little chiffon bow that I made. And I'm just going to put that right in the corner, only on one side. Tell me what you think of that. If I should have added the bow, should I put it in the middle? Should I put one on each side? Anyway, just tell me what your thoughts are. Anyway, I love it. I think it turned out really beautiful. I'm actually going to be hanging this from an oval mirror, and I think it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. Project number 3, and this is our last project for today. I thrifted this little box. It's just, you see these all over the place. I think it's probably a Hobby Lobby piece, but I love remaking little boxes and things like this. To me, that they turn into something really special. And I am going over this whole thing with Fusion's raw silk. I did not prime it or do anything. Fusion, again, has a primer in it, and even though this is a very dark color, I have used Fusion a lot of times and have not had any issues with bleed through, and I think it's because it does have that primer in it, and I had no issues with the bleed through on this. So I'm actually going to go over this whole thing, just the outside, with 2 coats, and I'm not even taking off any of the hardware. I'm just painting right over it. I want this to have an old painted look of something that somebody's had and decorated, and you know, just like a little hand painted look to it. And it really does cover in just 2 coats. After it's completely dry, I go ahead and I am looking through the IOD Rose Botanical. It's absolutely gorgeous. It has all different kinds of these kind of vintage looking roses. So I'm going to be taking some of these smaller pinkish roses from this transfer book and putting them on this, and it really honestly is not as hard as it looks. To do a curved surface, you just really have to like cut little portions anywhere it's curving so that the transfer will bend to and flex to the piece. And the way a transfer works, you just take the backing off and you take the transfer stick like you see me here and you rub on it and it will come off, and it's really actually extremely easy to do. I mean, it's a little bit more difficult than a flat surface, but it's not as challenging as you might think. And because this is Fusion paint that has a built-in top coat, I didn't have to do anything to it. I didn't have to put a sealer on it. I just had to wait for it to dry. And I find that transfers come off very, very easily on with Fusion paint. So I'm going to basically just go through and find little pieces, and wherever this has an opening, like you see there, I will just take my X-Acto knife and cut through that line. First I cover it with the transfer, and then I just basically cut it after, and it will split it right where it needs to split. And I'm just putting them wherever I think they will look good, and I'm layering some pieces where I think they need to be layered. I'm cutting apart pieces that need to be cut apart, and that's pretty much how you do it on a piece like this. And I love how they look when you do this. It just gives it almost like a hand-painted little jewel box look. So in the Rose Botanical, they have a lot of wording that comes with it, the beautiful wording. And I am just taking just one portion of it and putting it in the front, in the middle, just to kind of add some interest to it. And now I'm going to go over the whole thing with my Extreme Guard Semi-Gloss by Paint Couture. You do need to seal in your pieces whenever you do a transfer. The Fusion paint by itself does not need to be sealed because it has a sealer in it, but once you put the transfer on it, you should really seal it in especially if it's a piece that you're going to use like this, if you're going to open and close it, or you may have to wipe it off or anything like that. Before you seal it though, you want to make sure you burnish it, and that's just taking that top piece of plastic and making sure all the transfers are down. And now what I'm doing is I am just taking Fusion wax, and this is just the espresso, and I'm going over the whole thing. And I could have just waxed the piece and not added the Extreme Guard top coat, but again, I'm just making sure on a piece that's going to be used, I usually make sure that I seal it really well so it'll last and it'll be durable. And I'm putting the wax all over, and it will move very easily and glide off as much as possible, because as much as I want, just because it does have that sealer on it. Although the Fusion has a sealer, and I usually find that it works really well. I don't usually have to put a sealer on top of it unless I'm doing it for extra protection. So now I'm just taking a fiber cloth and I'm wiping off a great deal of this. And if I can't get it off, the amount off that I want with a cloth, then I will go in with a wet wipe and take that off. And I'm just making sure that I leave enough wax in like all little corners and in the crevices and things like that, because an older piece would naturally look that way. And again, if you don't like that look, you could definitely skip this part. But I like things to look old and vintage. And now what I'm doing, I'm taking that same Venetian gold by Paint Couture, and I'm just going over all of the metal pieces on this. I'm just kind of with my finger. I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm just making it look like it had been on there for a while and it's been rubbed off. And I will go around the edges of this piece, around the rounded corners, and add a little bit of the gold, and that's it. And I think it turned out really beautiful. I think this would be a great piece to put a gift in or give as a gift on its own. If you are interested in many of the supplies that I showed in this video, they are available at my website, rehatchdesigns.com. The link's in the description box. I'm running a huge sale on IOD items. You might want to check that out. I also offer free shipping over $50 and flat rate shipping under $50. And we also are having a sale on quite a few other things. Anyway, thanks for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you got something out of this, please like and subscribe and share. And I will see you guys again next time. You take care. Bye-bye now.